Hey there, it's Laura here from Laura's Creative Pages and Cards, and today we're going to make this beautiful birthday wishes card. We're going to do this one here in the portrait, so we're going to have it upright at 5.5 and width at 4.25. We need a raspberry piece of cardstock cut at 5 and 3 3/4, followed by a white piece cut at 4 7/8 by 3 5/8. Next, we're going to need another raspberry piece. This one is cut at 2 1/8 by 4 3/8, and then the decorative paper, which is 2 by 4 1/4. We also need a lagoon matting. This one is cut at 2 3/8 by 1, and then we need a white piece of cardstock cut at 2 1/4 by 7/8. And then one piece of scrap white paper, which this one is for the hearts to be stamped upon. Next, we're going to start by adhering this raspberry cardstock to the front of our card, and we're going to put 6 pieces of adhesive on it and then place that in the center of our card front. And this is where we're going to stop with sticking to the card for the moment, because on the white daisy piece we do a bit of stamping. I am going to now show you how to cut both the decorative paper and the raspberry strips of card, and we're going to do a dovetail on it. So this piece of decorative paper is 2 inches wide, so I've just used my Versamat to find the center at 1 inch, give it a little mark, and then I'm going to cut a little slit in it and then cut out the little triangles to create that pennant or dovetailed piece of paper. Once I've done the decorative piece, and it's most important you do that first, I'm going to just place it on top of the raspberry paper cardstock and hold it there right in the center, and then use it as my guide so that I can now cut out the raspberry cardstock, leaving a perfect border around the decorative paper. So the other option is you could actually adhere it together to start with, and then you could cut that out, but it is easier if you just hold it and do that. Right, so now what we need to do is we're going to go into the stamping. So you can see here on my sample that I've actually stamped in the ballerina ink. I've stamped the little tiny icons all over that white daisy, creating my own decorative paper with some random background stamping. Right, so it's the ballerina ink that I used, a really lovely light pink, but just in case you don't have a light ink, you could most certainly just leave the card as is, just with a white background. It is totally fine and it looks absolutely okay. So here we go with the random stamping. This is a bit of a trick I use. I'm just laying that piece of raspberry cardstock on there to put in my mind's eye where it is going to sit on the card, because I am not going to stamp in that area. There's 2 reasons. 1, I don't need to waste the ink, but number 2, most importantly, I don't need to waste my time stamping in an area that is simply going to be covered by a piece of cardstock. It's just a waste. So there we go, random stamped, and there's a big white gap because that's where my piece of card, my raspberry card, is going to go. So let's stick this one on. Again, another 6 pieces of tape to keep this one in place, finding the center of my mat, and once I'm happy I'll press that down nice and firmly in place. Now I will add this raspberry banner onto the card, again just with some adhesive, just some tape, and place that at the top left with a little bit of a gap. Not happy with that, so I'm just going to move it over a little tiny bit. So this is why I don't press down firmly until I'm 100% happy it's in place. Now that it's in place, I'm going to add this decorative paper over the top, the decorative paper that we have already given a perfect little border from cutting it previously. Done. So this card's coming together rather quickly, and I really do love this decorative paper with the background stamping. Next, we're going to add on this lagoon sentiment mat, and this one I am going to elevate it and add it on with some 3D foam tape, just chopping off 2 pieces to put on either end, and then I'm just going to add a really small third piece into the center, this just to prevent any sagging that might occur with that piece of card. So removing the backing, this just goes towards the top of this card. And once I've got it in place, that's when I'll press it down firmly, once I'm happy that it's straight. Okay then, so now we just need to move on to the stamping component. So we need to stamp this birthday wishes onto the white daisy card, and the birthday and the wishes are both curved. However, as I've shown you in previous days, you can straighten them out. So I'm just going to hold it at one end and stretch it out so it's nice and straight. And I can actually add the wishes directly below the birthday on the same one block, so that I'm not having to stamp twice or make sure I get it central. I just need to load it up on the one block, and so I'm just stamping it once. Yep, that's perfect. So raspberry ink for this particular sentiment, inking it up and just going to stamp that in the center of that piece of white daisy card. Once again, showing how amazing it is to have clear blocks. Okay, and now I'm going to add my journaling border onto this piece of white daisy sentiment. And whilst I do this, I realize that I haven't done it around the card again. I've forgotten. I'm so sorry. But it is really cool for you to see the difference between having it and not having it. It still looks fantastic without it. And so obviously any of these tips and ideas that I show you are clearly all optional, and you could most definitely go without doing that journal border on the card and it still looks brilliant. Okay, here's the heart onto the scrap piece of white, which was stamped in Lagoon. So I just stamped 2 hearts onto a scrap piece of white cardstock. And then these here just need to be cut out. So Speedy Gonzalez cutting these out for you right now. And once they're cut out, I will then attach these to the card with some 3D foam tape. So just grabbing the 3D tape, and I'm just going to put a small piece in the center of each of those hearts, and then attach them just on the edge of this pennant or banner that's going down the front of the card. It's just a fun little pop to the card. I really like how it looks. So that's the card finished. It's really easy, but it's a really lovely card. However, let me just quickly show you what to do if you don't have raspberry or Lagoon ink. Grab yourself a piece of the ballerina cardstock, the light pink, and cut this into the same size that the white daisy was, which is 2 1/4 by 7/8, and then just stamp on it with black ink. Still give it the journal pen border, and that will just replace the white stamped with raspberry. So, which, as you can see, looks brilliant. And then if you don't have Lagoon ink, just grab yourself a piece of Lagoon cardstock, grab the black ink and just stamp some black hearts onto the Lagoon card, like so. And then we'll just quickly cut those out. So fussy cut those 2 hearts out in the Lagoon and just pop them down in placement of the white stamped in Lagoon. We're going to have Lagoon stamped in black. And that's what the difference is. If you were to do the alternate option, both cards look amazing.